Okay. So this is a statement from JAMA, Journal of the American Medical Association, and often when I start presentations, certainly to the leisure industry, I bring this up because it's quite interesting that what this slide is basically saying is that when it comes to obesity and weight management, we're almost studying the wrong thing, because we've really studied that you can find studies on most diets in terms of high fat, high carb, high protein, high fiber, 8 and 2, whatever. Most of these diets have had quite a lot of studies around them, and pretty much they keep showing the same thing. And so what this commentary was making the point that if we want to move forward with treating obesity, we need a greater understanding of the biological aspects of it, and a lot of that is the hormonal signaling, but most importantly, behavioural environmental factors. So, and I think those two are really key because we often overlook this, especially a lot of trainers. We seem to be very good at exercise prescription, or most trainers are pretty good at exercise because that's how we teach trainers. They do have nutritional knowledge. The level of it sometimes is diabolical, but nonetheless we do have some. But the thing that often is overlooked is we don't address the behavioural issue, and often we don't address the environment in which people are living. So we're kind of saying to people, you need to get active, but it's actually difficult for them because of environmental factors. So, and I went to a conference recently looking at the whole obesity thing, and somebody spoke very much about the environment. And they said it's interesting that we keep telling people to get active, keep moving and so on. And yet when we design a new housing estate, we design everything around the car. And until such times as we get away from that and start kind of allowing an environment that makes walking a safe and desirable thing to do, it's unlikely to change. So the key thing is, it's that behavioural change that we need the understanding of. And this is one of the things that came out of my research. In the first part of the research, I had over 200 trainers across the UK, and I kind of said to them, if you're just taking on a client that wants weight management, get fitter, whatever it might be, see if they'd be willing to take part in this. And so I psychometrically tested them using the tests that we're going to go through today. And what I found was I then followed up those clients 12 weeks later. I didn't go to the trainer, I went directly to the clients. And I found that from the data, you could predict which clients would be successful and which ones wouldn't. So in other words, you needed a specific kind of psychological score, for want of a better word, before you were actually ready to take part. And so the second part of the research, I told trainers what that kind of cut-off point was, and they weren't allowed to engage a client unless they met that entry criteria. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, is what is that entry criteria? Where do we need somebody to be psychologically before we can kind of say with a degree of confidence we're likely to get a good outcome with this client? Because the problem with taking on clients that aren't ready to change is they're quite likely to drop out, and then they are quite likely to blame you as the trainer. So because they'll be all super gung-ho when they start and telling everybody how wonderful it is and I've got this great new trainer and so on and so forth. And then when it all goes pear-shaped and people are still asking them, oh, how's it going? They'll just say, oh, it didn't work for me. The trainer wasn't very good, told me the wrong advice. And of course, you're not there to put your side of the story. So it can be quite difficult, and it can actually damage your business. So I think what we should now be doing in the future, certainly, is psychometrically testing clients. And if we decide they're not psychologically ready to change, then this is why I now do the motivational interviewing workshop. We should then work with them using motivational interviewing to move them to a point where they are ready to change, and we should just keep retesting. And I'm going to talk a little bit throughout the day about using these tests as a retention tool as well. because they should highlight to you, if you're testing regularly, in which direction psychologically a client is actually moving. So hopefully that kind of makes a little bit more sense, puts it into context. Okay.